Lakshmi, and good morning. It's great to be here with all of you. First of all, I must compliment Ashima and the entire IIM America's team for putting together such an excellent event. I think it's about time the IIM alumni tried to exercise the same kind of influence that the IIT alumni do. I think the Pan IIT events have become almost a centerpiece of a lot of activity across the world, and I hope the IIM events can emulate that same trend. Okay, so what I thought I'd do this morning by way of inaugurating this conference is just tell you a little bit about what are some of the challenges before the IIMs today. In my informal interaction with some of you before this started, it was good to see that I think almost all the IIMs are represented. Though I don't know whether I met anybody from any of the latest IIMs. So that's, of course, that's one of the challenges we face is the expanding network of IIMs, and I'll come to that in a little bit. So, as you heard in my bio, I've had the privilege of either studying or working at 3 IIMs now, studying at Ahmedabad, teaching at Bangalore, and now being the director of IIM Indore. So I think I have some familiarity with these institutions, and I'll try to share with you what are some of the challenges at this point. First, just to give you a little bit of pictorial sense, I don't know how many of you have been to IIM Indore. IIM Indore itself was started in 1998. And this is an aerial view of the campus. One of the challenges we faced in the IIM system is the amount of time it takes to really get the campus up and running. So though IIM Indore started in 1998, we've sort of got the entire complement of buildings and all infrastructure in place only about now. So it's taken 16, 17 years for that whole process to happen. But fortunately, the end result is quite good, as you'll see in these pictures. These are some of the pictures of the academic buildings. We have classrooms, which those of you who are from Ahmedabad will see some similarity. That's not by chance, it's actually the design was, I think, largely influenced by the design of the classrooms in Ahmedabad. We have lots of pretty well appointed hostels. We have a separate hostel for the doctoral students, which is again a nice addition. Sports facilities in the IIMs are slowly improving. IIM Indore can take some credit there for taking the lead. We have perhaps the best sports facilities among any of the IIMs, including a full-fledged Olympic-sized swimming pool. We also have good gym facilities, and of course the campuses are nice and green and well maintained. With the increasing size of students, the IIMs have also now got to have much larger auditoriums. As many of you would know, most of the IIMs now admit something like 400 students in the PGP program every year. So in Indore we actually take 450. But the challenge we are facing is how do the auditoriums keep pace with the growing number of students. In fact, even our new auditorium only accommodates about 850 people, so it doesn't even accommodate both the PGP batches. One of the unique things about IIM Indore is that we also started an undergraduate program, the first IIM to do so. It's called an integrated program in management. And the aim of this is really to catch students young when they're coming out of school, particularly those who are not very interested in engineering but would like to finally do management. So we teach them liberal arts and maths, statistics, economics, sociology, psychology in the first 3 years. And in the 4th and 5th year, they actually do classes along with the PGP students. So if any of you have any questions about that, I'm happy to take those later. These are the hostels for that IPM program. These are just a few more pictures from the campus. I sort of skipped some of these, and let me go straight to the issues I wanted to talk about. So, what are some of the important developments at the IIMs? I think the first important development at the IIMs today is that the institutes have always been very good teaching institutions. Particularly, I'm sure those of you who studied in the older IIMs would recall a lot of your professors and classes with a lot of good feeling about it. But IIMs were never quite known for their contribution to knowledge generation and research. And I think that's one thing we are trying to change now. So one big focus, particularly in some of the IIMs, is on increasing the scope of research programs, putting in place incentive systems so that faculty spend more time on their research activities, and trying to have more impact in the world of research and knowledge creation. Okay, another important development at IIM, I think which would be maybe a bit late for all the guys here, but it's good to know that gender diversity is improving rapidly. When I studied in Ahmedabad, I think the gender mix was about 15% women. Today, some of the IIMs have actually hit 50%. So IIM Kozhikode, for example, this year had more than 50% of the graduating class as women. One way this has been achieved is by actually giving some additional weightage for women in the selection process. There are different views about whether this is a good thing to do or not, but I think the result is good that almost all the IIMs now have at least 25 to 27% women in the PGP program. Another important development in the IIM system is that there's a slow but I think increasing interest in people going into startups. Of course, a lot of that has been driven by the recent changes in the Indian economy, particularly the growth of e-commerce and related industries. So it's good to see many students now during the PGP itself evincing interest in starting their own ventures. Some of them postpone the actual starting up because they have loans to repay and so on. But it's really heartening to see the kind of interest which is growing in that area. Some institutes like IIM Ahmedabad have taken the lead in this, particularly in setting up incubation and entrepreneurship support centers. And that's becoming a trend across IIMs now. So IIM Calcutta has also emulated that. IIMB, of course, also been doing it for about 10 years now. So we are seeing that trend gradually spreading across the IIMs. Another important development in the IIMs, which is a little controversial but probably in the right direction, is that all of you, of course, know that you all got a postgraduate diploma in management. You didn't actually get an MBA degree. So there is a move towards changing that now, and there is a new bill which is being introduced in Parliament to give the IIMs degree granting status. There are some issues related to that because there are fears that the conversion of the status of IIMs will also result in some loss of autonomy. Only time will tell exactly how this plays out, but there's a good chance within the next year the IIMs will change the way they are structured and will have the power to grant degrees to their graduating students. And the last important development that I wanted to mention to you is first quiz question. How many IIMs are there today? 30. You got the answer right? Okay. But the news is that there are 6 more on the anvil. So the government has announced in the last 2 budgets that they want to set up IIMs in the 6 states I've listed there on the slide. So by maybe the next time I come here, there will be 19 IIMs functioning, maybe more, who knows, but at least 19 IIMs. So of course there are a lot of issues related to that. I keep getting asked questions about brand dilution. Will all IIMs be the same? How is the market taking this? Will everybody get placed? All these questions of course exist, and depending on time and interest, I'm happy to discuss any of those questions. Okay, the last thing I wanted to just mention is what are some of the challenges. I think one of the big challenges for the IIMs today is where are the financial resources for the focus on research going to come from? As many of you would know, in the US, particularly the private schools are very well endowed. Harvard, Stanford, whichever the big universities have billions of dollars of endowment. And that's what gives them the flexibility to undertake a lot of different things. In India, we don't have such large endowments. We have very small endowments. Historically, we were funded by the government. So where the money for all this research and focus on knowledge creation is going to come from is not very clear at this point of time. And it's also interesting even within India itself, if you compare with a private school like ISB, which has a pretty substantial endowment, is paying its faculty, by the way, substantially more than the IIMs pay their faculty. We are seeing some significant competition in the knowledge creation space from ISB. Interestingly, we haven't seen any other ISB type institutions so far, but one of the challenges is going to be how we sustain this in the long run. There's also a whole issue of how we manage the transition. Many of our faculty joined at a time when research was not emphasized. They may not necessarily have the skill set to be outstanding researchers. So there is an organizational change and organizational transformation process that has to be managed well if the IIMs are to successfully transition to this knowledge-driven kind of an approach. The other challenge which I would like to underline is the importance and criticality of adopting and integrating technology. You could probably ask some of the recent graduates, and I found a few people from 2012, 2013 here. I think IIMs are pretty backward as far as technology is concerned. You won't find very high levels of technology adopted in the classroom or in the teaching process. And that's something which needs to change. Again, it requires investment. more than investment, it also means a change in the way faculty members look at their role, how receptive they are to new technology and so on. And another critical challenge for the IIMs as a system is going to be to get new IIMs to critical mass and size quickly. Those of you who studied in any of the later IIMs would know that it's taken a really long time for these institutes to get to the right size. IIM Lucknow started around 1984-85. I think it took till about 2000 before they were really a full-fledged institute with the right size of faculty. IIM Indore started in 1998. Now we're in 2015. We're about at the right size. It's taking 16, 17, 18 years to get to that. If all these new IIMs are going to take the same time, it's going to be forever before they're really functioning as full-fledged institutions. So one of the challenges is how can we learn from the experience of the older institutes and get the newer ones to scale up quickly. I think that's going to be one of the big challenges we face. Okay, so I just tried to give you a kind of bird's eye view of what are some of the important challenges before the IIMs today. Thank you again for inviting me to this event. Great to see all of you. Hope to have a chance to chat with some of you. And depending on the time and so on, if there's time for some questions, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, happy to discuss with you later. Thank you.
So what we do is we have Zainab and Indore. I don't expect the alumni to be shy at all. So if you have questions, just stand up. We're going to get a couple of microphones. So Indore and Zainab will run around with the microphones if you have any questions for Professor Krishnan. So maybe we